Yeah. Hey. Hey. All right. Hey. Yeah, I mean.
So we about to take off.
Hey. Please do remain calm. About to run against it and with a little bit of soul, no times.
Welcome to the Please Remain Calm podcast. I'm Ben Gonzalez.
And I am Daniel Gonzalez. Right off the bat, folks, all of the opinions expressed here on the Please Remain Calm podcast are our own. They do not reflect the opinions of the Los Angeles City Fire Department or the Los Angeles County Department of Health Services.
Thank you.
Also, guys, I know it's been a few weeks since we've talked to you guys. Like I said, we've just been busy with life, the holidays and baseball starting with the kids and kids getting back in school, and work is crazy because, obviously everyone's, still getting sick, and there's issues with staffing and all that stuff. So
things you covered in some of the previous episodes, they keep happening.
Yeah, man, it's life's just crazy right now. So this is like the first opportunity that we've had where we've both been off and been able to get into the studio and talk for a little bit. So thank you guys for sticking with us and for tuning in today. And even though we haven't had any shows in the past few weeks, man, we've still been getting a bunch of downloads.
Yeah.
A bunch of views on YouTube and stuff like that. People looking at old episodes. So
yeah, new followers, new fans, and we love it. We appreciate the support. As always, or I don't want to say as always, but as per the last few months, we're still completely brought to you by us. So everything that we do is completely word of mouth. If you share the show, we love you. We appreciate you. And if you do want to support us, you can DM us and possibly Venmo us for our merch.
Yeah, man. So it's just kind of like a way to kind of see that you guys are really interested in the podcast and still, going back and seeing old episodes, the fact that we're still getting downloads and stuff like that, when we're not putting out new content is pretty cool. So it's motivation for us to get back in here and start pumping out some more episodes. So
yeah, we have some great stuff planned.
To start today's episode off, I wanted to take a minute and acknowledge a really good friend of mine that passed away a couple days ago. I posted this on my Instagram and on our social media, and I just wanted to reiterate it here and acknowledge my buddy Dexter McDaniel. It's funny, man, when you get onto the fire department, everything kind of has like a mystique to it, right? Like everybody, I can remember growing up and like going to like dad stations and stuff like that as a kid, and you meet these guys and they're super cool and they're like big and they're buff, and they like operate these like, massive fire engines and stuff like that. And it's just like, I kind of always put everybody up on a pedestal, yeah. Right?
I remember having that mystique still as an adult.
Yeah.
Going to the fire stations and be like an intern, like, all right, this guy is like literally like kind of frightening.
Yeah. Or they're just like so knowledgeable, they open up like when I went to the USAR station, they opened up the USAR and they just know everything about every tool. You got a senior fireman when you first get there as a rookie, and the guy just knows everything, all the details and all the specs of everything that you come in contact with. And so there's this like mystique, even when you get hired onto the fire department and you're a rookie, like I said, you show up and it just seems like everybody knows more than you. And everybody kind of like, even though you're there and you got the badge on too, everybody kind of like, you feel like the little kid in a room full of adults,
Absolutely.
And that feeling kind of sticks with you, throughout your rookie year, because you're kind of treated like that, like you're kind of treated like a kid when you're
treated like a kid. Yeah, they literally call you kid all the time.
Exactly,
yeah.
Dude. Exactly. That's very true, dude. And when you finally get your shield and you get off probation, you go to your house after your probationary houses. It really is like a complete like light switch, switches, and you're treated like one of the guys. And then that's when you feel like you really learn how to be a firefighter, how to live in this world of being part of a crew and being part of a bunch of guys that really care about each other and family trips and station trips and stuff like that. So for me, Dexter McDaniel was one of those first guys that really talked to me and treated me like an adult in the room, And it was it was really cool for me because Dexter was really well respected. You know, he worked at Fire Station 79 when I transferred into 57s. And I actually met him before I transferred into 57s when I was still at 9s on Skid Row. I would work a bunch of sod days down in Battalion 13 and stuff. And back then, 79s was part of Battalion 13. So when you get sod days,
they moved
it's mostly in your battalion. Yeah, it's part of
Far
South
Harbor
Bay
now.
So, yeah, it's part of Battalion 6. But Dexter was one of those guys, like there was a handful of guys that just worked every day. They were like the guys that you just knew worked all the time. And if you needed a day off and he wasn't working, even if he wasn't signed up, you could call him and be like, hey, dude, I need this day. Yeah, no problem. I got it. Didn't matter where it was. Didn't matter if it was in the farthest 98s in the farthest north in the valley or 96s or the farthest south or east. It didn't matter. He didn't care. Every fire station was the same. The position was the same to him.
But there's something to be said about that too, because when we're saying work every day, like we're saying that there's literally guys that'll work 25 days out of a month, or more.
And we're talking 24-hour
shifts. Yeah.
Yeah. So
demanding shifts.
Yeah. And that's another discussion for another podcast. But, when you hear about guys making so much money and all that stuff, it's because they're literally here working a paramedic rescue somewhere in the city, literally every single moment of an entire month, 20, 30 days straight, working 24-hour shifts, going from one station to the other. So Dexter was one of those guys, man. And, on top of that, you can imagine working, dude, if I'm at work for 2 or 3 days, I get all moody and pissed off and stuff like that. It's really easy to get pissed off at people, and not everybody that calls 911 is dealing with a full deck. And so it's really easy to be short with people and stuff like that. That's one thing. That's like probably one of the first things that I really appreciated about Dex, because I was at a place that was super busy, and I felt like I was, getting my ass kicked, but I was young and stuff like that. And Dex is, 10, 15 years older than me, and worked a day on a sod day with him, probably at 64s or something. It was the first time we met. And, this is day 3 for me. I'm getting my ass kicked for 2 days up in 9s. And I got this sod day down here at 64s. And I felt run down and tired. Mm-hmm. And here I meet this guy, Dex. Hey, what's up, man? Hey, what's up, brother? How you doing, man? Oh, you're young on the job. And he starts like giving me little tidbits of knowledge and stuff like that and wisdom. And throughout the day talking to him, then I find out it's like his 10th day in a row working. You know what I mean? And he's just like the most upbeat, positive dude, we talked about life, talked about his life, talked about, the ups and downs that he's had. I mean, this is all just driving around on day 1 and meeting the guy. Uh-huh. And I left the next morning just like, and I went up to, anytime you meet somebody, especially when you're young on the job, hey, man, it was really nice working with you. Thanks for the good shift and stuff like that. But I remember walking up to him and going, hey, Dex, man, I'm really happy I met you, dude. I'm really glad I met you, man. That was a great shift. We got our ass kicked all night, but, man, I felt like it blew by. I'm really, really glad I met you, man. Gave him a little dap. He gave me a hug. And I was like, damn, that was a cool dude, man. Yeah. And all the times that I ran into him after that, it was like that, man. It was like we were family. Mm-hmm. And, you take a little bit from everybody that you run into on the fire department, especially when you're young on the job, the good and the bad. I can't tell you how many times I've looked at someone and been like, I'm not going to fucking be like that, And there's guys that like, damn, that's who you want to emulate. That's who you want to be like.
Totally.
And Dexter was one of those guys, man. He always treated everybody with kindness, respect. It didn't matter how much he had worked, how tired he was. He always had an open door. If you needed help, he helped countless people with their interview prep. And just if you needed help with anything and or needed advice on life or anything, man, Dexter was one of those guys that you could just call and his door was always open to you. And I know there's a ton of people out there who have similar experiences with him. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to acknowledge him. He retired a couple years ago, and actually just before he retired, I worked a day with him at 79. I picked up a sod day down there. Oh, nice. I was just talking to him. He has some family emergency stuff that had to happen that I actually talked to him about coming on the podcast. But he respectfully, declined. He said, hey, man, we're past that. Our family's done talking about that stuff. And I'm like, hey, cool, man, no problem. But
a lot of people do that.
Just a really beautiful guy. And, even though we weren't super close, I felt a strong connection to him. And I'm really, 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 like I said, he retired 2 years ago. Less than a year ago, he was diagnosed with ALS. And he deteriorated really rapidly and passed away 3 nights ago in at his home. And I just wanted to acknowledge him, acknowledge the impact that he had on me as a firefighter, a young firefighter, and just as a man, how to treat people, how to treat young firefighters on the job as well. And believe it or not, I've always carried that with me over 18 years as a firefighter. Anytime, we have a rookie or somebody young on the job, I like to approach them, and I don't play that whole, I'm the senior firefighter, you're the rookie BS with people. You're a human being. I'm a human being. I'm going to teach you what I know, and hopefully it'll help you grow. And I credit some of that to Dexter McDaniel and the type of person that he was. So much respect to him, much love to him and his family. And that's it, man.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
Dexter. And the impact is felt throughout the department still, from what the seed he planted in you to how to treat the other, younger members.
For sure, dude.
Same thing with all these other guys that he worked with over, if the guy's working every day, 300 days a year or something.
All over the city.
Yeah. For 20 plus years. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, I think you can see that in the outpouring of respect and stuff that, the Centaurians put a couple posts out. I put a couple posts out in just a response to those things from people just saying, yeah, I knew Dexter, and the same sentiments about him. Just really is an example, or goes to show what kind of guy he was. So
yeah, totally.
Lost a good dude there, Dexter. Much love, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was already like in that mode, like thinking about that and stuff like that. And then we got a new paramedic intern at 63s on the C shift.
Mm-hmm.
And
preceptor time.
Yeah, man. So I thought we would talk about that today. I thought we'd talk about paramedic school.
Take a trip down memory lane.
Take a trip down memory lane for us. And then, I literally just had shift 1. I mean, he came for shift 0 and then shift 1, new intern, literally 2 days ago. And so going through all the like first day stuff with him and stuff like that, and like expectations, stuff, I thought, wow, I haven't done this in a while. It'd be good to put out there, because now there are so many people going through the hiring process right now.
Yeah. There's so many jobs right now.
Yeah.
There's a great time to do it.
It really is. If you're thinking about it, or if you're like kind of like, hesitating to put in an application somewhere or something like that, you put in the application. Everybody is hiring like crazy right now. And the LFD is no exception.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, so used to be back in the day, right? Paramedic was not part of the fire department. I mean,
no.
The fire department was straight up firemen.
You got a blue helmet.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, that guy is not a fireman.
It really was.
Don't send him in. Don't give him anything to do.
When you look at like paramedicine was created pretty much, or the paramedic like program was created in LA County in the late 70s, mid 70s,
early 70s. I think it's 69 or 71 is like the first class or something.
Early 70s.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. But LA County is created in LA County, and it was separate from the fire department for a long time. And then when the fire department finally, figured out that this was something that the fire department should be handling, and they started having paramedics as part of the fire department, it was still like a completely separate thing from the guys at the fire station.
Yeah.
It was the paramedics were not treated well in the firehouse. They were looked at as lesser than, and that they didn't really belong in a firehouse. They were medical guys.
Can I ask you, are there still any single function paramedics left in LAFD?
Oh yeah,
there are.
Yeah, there's a few.
There's a few still.
There's a few. You can even promote to captain as a single function, and get
EMS captain.
Be an EMS captain. Yeah.
But there's still a few that are in the streets.
Oh yeah.
Doing
yeah. There used to be single function EMTs too. I mean, when I say emergency medicine was separate from the fire department, I mean it. There used to be, they were called the Brown Bombers, right? The single function EMTs, and they just rode 800s, man, transported people. Yeah.
I don't remember that at all. Yeah.
But even still, man, like even when they finally became part of the fire department per se, they were a separate entity. They were on their own little island in the fire station.
I had one of those guys as my preceptor, so when we get into that part, I'll go into it more. Yeah.
But yeah, it kind of sucked being a medic on the fire department. You were treated like shit basically, And it took a while for that culture to change. And I think what helped it change was that so much of what we do has moved now to the medical side.
Yeah.
You got to keep in mind that when fire departments were first developed and first created, there was no like real look in city planning as far as like fire protection for buildings and building codes.
Building codes,
like
none of that
right?
stuff. Yeah.
There weren't like fire blocks built into the construction. You had like balloon construction where a fire could start in the wall on the first floor and run its way up all the way up, 5 or 6 flights to the attic and get the entire building going.
All of these regulations only happen as a result of very deadly fires. Pretty much every single law, every single like regular fire regulation that you see now for safety is as a result of a deadly fire.
And that's true. And that can be indicated by like the names of these ordinances and stuff, right? Like the Sally Mae and da-da-da. They're all
they'll name it after, Sally Mae's the little girl that this whole roof fell on.
Exactly. They're all based on tragedies that happen within when we're talking about stuff, obviously I'm talking about LA City, but tragedies that happen within
all
LA
over
City.
The country. Yeah.
But I hate to break it to you, man, that you could go through any business's rules and regulations, including the fire department, man. Like everything is reactionary, and the fire department is very, very reactionary when it comes to their rules and stuff like that, protocols and shit that we do on the fire department. Pretty much every rule that we have, you look at it and you're like, what the fuck? Why do we do that? Well, it's because somewhere down the line, somebody screwed something up and got hurt or injured or killed, or hurt or injured and killed somebody else. And boom, we have a rule.
Even down to random pieces of equipment. I remember seeing that there was like a beekeeper suit when I was an intern the first day, and there's a beekeeper hat on the rig. It's like,
the
beekeeper. Yep. Yeah, but I guess so. If there's fucking bees,
you're
gonna need a beekeeper hat.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Something happened where you had bees.
But that's part of it, being prepared, being prepared for the unexpected and shit. But yeah, man. So everything has kind of changed and shifted toward more of a medical playbook when it comes to like staffing and stuff like that. And it's funny, like, it's the fire department. And it's a bunch of firemen, who have, spent their careers like, really, really learning how to be the best firefighters that you possibly can. So and we have fire engines and fire trucks, right? And so it takes a lot for the city to go, well, shit, we're not really going to that many fires anymore. Yeah. All this fire prevention stuff that we've been doing for the past 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
It works.
All the new buildings being built with sprinkler systems, the fire blocks in the walls, the non-flammable building materials, the coatings on, high-rise metal girders and all that stuff. All that stuff is actually working. We're not really seeing a whole lot of fires, massive fires like we have in the past. And we're seeing a ton more medical stuff. 80 to 90% of the calls that we go on a day across the board, across the city, are medical runs, right? The funny thing is, like, back in the day, too, not even that long ago, it was probably like 10 years ago that this happened, they paid the RAND Corporation to do a study of what units needed to be in each fire station, right? Mm-hmm. It was a multi-year long study, based on the call volume and the type of calls you were going on, what should be housed at every fire station. And when that report came back, man, the amount of ambulances, like a station like 33s, for instance, right? The report came back, hey, you should have 4 paramedic ambulances at this fire station, right? And it was like no fire protection stuff, right? And then 64s was like 1 fire engine and 3 paramedic rescues and 2 BLS rescues. It was just like
madness compared to how it is now. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, compared to the way that you just generally think a fire department should operate, a fire department should have fire engines, fire stuff. So. Yeah. But when you look at the actual call volume,
nah, you guys should be AMR with some fire engines.
Pretty much, man.
Here and there.
Pretty much. Who knows how much the city spent on that study, right? But they took that thing and they crumbled it up and they tossed it as far away as they possibly could, right? Yeah. You never heard another thing about that thing. But the city did figure out, and other departments have figured out, that the medical side is where it's at. Not only that, but that's where they bill. That's where they get the majority of their money and stuff like that, right?
Exactly.
So, Whereas, being a paramedic was something that was like separate from being part of the station. Now it's like integrated. Like
Every station, basically.
Every station has a paramedic resource. Number one. Number two, they're integrated into like the fire side of things. So you have
there is no
engines.
station without a paramedic anymore, right?
No, there isn't.
Right.
No. Yeah.
Is there a station without an ambulance? There is.
There
right?
are stations without ambulances, but in those stations, typically you have an assessment engine or assessment truck or something like that. So there's a paramedic resource with paramedic equipment for the most part at every fire station across the city.
Even the boats.
Even the boats, yeah. So like if let's say 112s, right?
Yeah.
112s has 3 paramedic rescues, and they rotate onto the boat. So you have the paramedic rescue, and then one paramedic on the boat.
Yeah.
And obviously things change throughout a day. If staffing issues or whatever happens, or an engine company is at a brush fire or something like that, you might have a period of time where you don't have a paramedic resource in that station. But
for the most part,
stationed there, that you do have paramedics everywhere. And so seeing as how it's just become ingrained and it's part of the fire department now, it's finally to a point where like it's almost you're almost not a well-rounded firefighter these days if you aren't also a paramedic. You know what I mean? I feel like we're kind of in that transition right now. It's like we got a bunch of people that are being hired that are just straight firefighter, and it's like, hey, are you a medic? No. Okay. Are you thinking about it? Yeah. Well, yeah, I think I'm going to have to. That's kind of like the sentiment from the people that are getting hired now, which is awesome.
If it's not being a full-blown medic, you at least know that you have to be useful on medical calls. You got to be helpful.
Yeah.
Like,
and
that didn't always exist. There were dudes like, don't hand me an IV bag. I ain't doing shit.
Oh yeah.
You know what
I mean? And just that old school mentality, that old way of looking at things and treating the paramedic side of stuff. It just doesn't exist anymore. It's slowly going by the wayside.
Yeah.
So, seeing as how everybody is like on that kind of on board with either acknowledging that, paramedicine is something that should be taught and should be, that you should go through in order to be a well-rounded firefighter. I thought it'd be cool to go back and just talk a little bit about paramedic school and what it was like for us and what to expect when you go through it.
So let's break down the old paramedic school scene for LA County, at least, because that's what we know. And I don't think it's changed. I don't think there's no new paramedic school.
Well, I don't know.
No, not for LA County. Yeah, there's just PTI, Daniel Freeman, and Mount Sac.
Well, no, because AMR has their own.
AMR has their own paramedic school. That's a LA County paramedic school.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. It might, unless it's
I don't know.
Sam or Dew. Anyway,
yeah, it's probably because
there's
a lot of out of county.
I know plenty of people that have gone through that AMR one. I forget what the name of it is.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah. So you have, Daniel Freeman, which is affiliated with UCLA. Daniel Freeman, it's called that because that was a hospital system that used to exist in LA. There were 2 hospitals. One was in Inglewood, across the street from the cemetery, and the other one was Marina Del Rey. The Marina Del Rey hospital still exists, and now it's a Cedars-Sinai hospital. But the Inglewood one was the big one, and that has been long since torn down, and now it's a big condo community. There's still some of the building. I think there's like a pharmacy building still there or something like that, or one doctor's office building, but everything else is torn down. And it's Grace
and
Park
that's where the paramedic school operated out of.
Yeah.
Daniel Freeman is now part of UCLA's pre-hospital care system, and they teach paramedic school through UCLA. And the majority of, and then there's, sorry, you got a thing right there. And then there's PTI, the Paramedic Training Institute. That's like LA County's like paramedic school.
Yeah, that's the one that's in my office or my office building upstairs, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the majority of paramedics that we get with LA City, or that I get as interns, are either from Daniel Freeman or from PTI. Like if you go through a private academy, a lot of the private academies that are run through community colleges and stuff like that, they'll have a specific number of seats in PTI that they have, and so you can sign up. Like El Camino that we went through, they have, you can sign up to paramedic school when you first initially start in the program. You're put on a waiting list, and they have 5 seats in paramedic school, and so by the time you're done with your EMT, done with your private academy, it's about time for you to pop up on the waiting list and oh shit, we got a spot for you. Are you willing to take it? So
did you do that?
Did I
didn't do it.
I didn't do that.
I didn't put it in.
I went straight to Mount Sac. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's Mount
But
Sac.
I remember we
which-
went to Mount Sac because we didn't put in for the PTI
Yeah.
thing. And as like our time came, we're like, all right, we got to go to paramedic school. Where can we go? Mount Sac.
So
Explain
basically, at least for me, right? And I'll talk about me here. I didn't want to be a paramedic, man. I did not want to do it at all. I was, our dad was on the job, and I was an explorer at 63s when I was in high school. And that was still in that period of time when it was still kind of like looked down on, and you were kind of like, looked at other than if you were a paramedic. And so my sentiment about paramedic school was it was something you did if you were struggling to get hired. Right? Because that was an extra step you could take that was going to save the city money and stuff like that. And it just looked a lot better for you if you were a paramedic.
Yeah.
So when I first tested, right, we were in El Camino's Fire Academy, and I took the test, and I was just fresh out of high school. I mean, I just turned 18. Mm-hmm. We were actually in El Camino's Fire Academy when I was testing, and I just didn't have anything. I had a high school diploma. I had that. I was an explorer, for a couple years, and that was it. Like, I didn't have any fire science courses or anything, right? Went through, tested, got a 90 on my oral, and it was like, back then you didn't advance if you got less than 100. Yeah. And looked at that, and I was like, son of a gun, man. All right, I guess next time, So then it went through, and it came up time, I sat on that list with the 90, and then that list obviously goes for a year or 2 years until the list finally dies and they test again. So time came up to test again, and I just thought to myself, like, God, man, I'm just stagnant here. I haven't really been done anything. I've got fire science classes on my resume now, and I got this, but I don't really have anything significantly more than I had the first time that I tested.
Right.
And I said, screw it, man, I'm going to go to paramedic school. So I called the 3 main paramedic schools: PTI, Daniel Freeman, Mount Sac. And Mount Sac is Mount San Antonio College in the city of Walnut. And just said, hey, send me information on your paramedic schools. All right. They all sent it to me. Mount Sac was the cheapest.
Yes.
It was starting the soonest,
mm-hmm.
and it was the easiest to get into. All you had
technically
the
easiest to get into.
All you had to do was take the prep course, and as long as you were in the top 50 finishers in the prep course, 30?
Yeah, because the course would have like 60 people in it. You had
Anyways,
to be top 30. Yeah,
you had to be top in this prep course, top 30, let's say, in the prep course to get into the school. It didn't matter if you were number 30. All right? It didn't matter. You got in if you were in the top 30. Okay, cool. I can fucking do that. Yeah. So sign up for it, show up. They give you a whole list of things you're supposed to study for the prep course.
Yes.
And it was like, the glossary of this book. It was like all the definitions from this book. It was
medical terminology. It was anatomy and physiology.
That was like math. There was some math.
Yeah,
like
was,
basic math and stuff like that. Yeah. So you're looking at it and you're like, oh, no problem, man. Mm-hmm. Then you order the books and stuff, right? And you go to like the like places that you want you to study. It's just a massive amount of information in there, right? And I remember looking at it and going, there's no way they're going to like, so I skimmed it.
You knew some guys that went to Mount Sac first though, right? Because I thought I did. I don't think so. Besides you, no?
No, hell no. It was Walnut.
I thought I remember getting
like, the world.
Yeah, I thought I remember us getting like some of like the prep ship before.
Not me. No? If you did, you didn't give it to me.
I probably got it off of you because you went to the class before me.
That's possible.
Yeah.
That's possible.
Yeah.
But I remember getting there to the class, man, and then like it was just like testing. They just gave us a bunch of quizzes, man. And the first quiz, I was like, oh shit, I did not study enough. Oh shit, they really wanted me to know like all of that stuff. You know what I mean?
And if you studied, you didn't study enough. Like these quizzes were hard.
Well, it wasn't even. It was just like
they were hard, dude.
I don't really see how you could have possibly studied the stuff that they wanted you to study. It was just like a massive amount of information.
Yeah,
to me,
this is
right?
for the prep course.
The prep course,
and we studied, and you would walk out with like a 57 on a quiz.
So
you thought you like were ready for.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
So I bombed like. I shit you not, dude. I feel like I bombed every single little quiz. Then the course was like, it was only like a couple day course, right? Or was it like one day? It was like short.
It was like 2 weekends or something.
It was like, it wasn't like
less
full
than
class.
A month. Yeah, it
wasn't a full class. It was like a couple little classes. And each class, you got these quizzes, and I just remember getting pummeled on every quiz and going home and going like, damn, I really got to study this shit, and going home and like studying, thinking I studied, and then coming back and just every question that I thought, oh, there's no way they're going to ask us that was a question that got asked, and I just failed. I just kept failing these quizzes. I'm like, son of a gun, man, I'm not going to get into paramedic school.
Yeah, on top of that, they didn't really teach you really much in the prep course.
They didn't teach you shit.
The only thing they taught you was like what you're going to expect to get in the class if you make it in the class, but everything else was just to assess whether or not your ass is getting in this class or not.
That's it. Yeah. Everything was testing, right? Mm-hmm. And I bombed every single one of these tests. And so like the last day of class, I'm like, fuck, all right. Well, at least now I know what I got to like prepare for the next class. Guess who was number 29, right? So I'm like, oh, snap, I got into paramedic school, right? And when I say I failed every one of those damn tests, man, I mean, I felt like crying. Like I felt like I had to stop myself and go like, okay, you're not a failure, man. This was hard. Let's reevaluate. Make sure you study well the next time, and we'll hit this next time. I was as shocked as anybody else that I was number 29 and got into class.
But that's how hard that shit was.
Exactly.
Dude. You felt like you got an A if you got a 70.
Well, and that's kind of like my point, right? Like I'm thinking this all internally, right? I'm looking at everybody else like who looks confident and stuff, right? That's in there taking these tests with me, and I'm like, oh man, these guys, I got to get up to these guys' levels, right? It wasn't until we actually got in class and we were having lunch together and stuff like that, where we were talking about the prep course, and they were like, oh shit, man, I failed everything. We're like, oh, okay, shit. So it wasn't just me. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So we get into class and you know, we have our first full day of class and stuff like that. And when I say that, like, I felt like I was prepared, I studied all this stuff they told me to study. Yeah. I felt like I was prepared.
Yeah, because you get like another month after you end the prep course before you start the class. So like here you get your books. Now you're in the class. Get your nose in these books for a month. And they would encourage you to make study groups. Yeah. Remember? And you meet with other guys and stuff. And like you really do put effort into it. But
put in some effort, get there the first day. Go through the whole day, have our first quiz. It was a Friday, too. Our first day was a Friday. Have our first quiz, and could not have failed that quiz any worse than I failed it, dude. I think I got like a 30-something on the quiz, right? And I'm just like, what the fuck just happened? Yeah. And mind you, you know, I was on my own. You know, I'm 19 at this time, at this point. So going to paramedic school, it's a full-time gig. So I had to quit my job. Mm-hmm. You know, I had to get help from my dad. My dad was paying my rent for me, basically.
Yeah. It was Monday through Friday, 8 to 5.
It was no joke. I had people, I had people that were putting in for me to succeed at this, right? Yeah. That I felt like I was letting down each minute that I was in this fucking class. So we take this test. I bomb it horribly, fail it, right? Mm-hmm. I'm just like, oh my God, dude, what is going on here? Like, I'm going to let everybody down. Mm-hmm. So went home that Friday. And when I say I studied that weekend, man, I went over all the stuff that they told us to study again. But I studied, like, I'm not kidding you, dude, from before sunrise, 5 a.m. to 2 a.m. Yeah. I was nonstop studying and making cards, flashcards.
It's a commitment. Because that was the other thing, too, was it was in Walnut. Walnut is the complete east end of LA County. We lived in Venice and Inglewood.
As far west as you can. Right?
So, and class started at 8, but you had to get there like an hour earlier to get a parking space near the class because you had 20 books. Yeah. You had a suitcase full of books and you didn't want to have to drag it across the campus to get to your class. You wanted to get a spot in the lot by the class. You had to get there early. So you would leave like before 6 to get all the way out there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And be ready for class. Were you taking no-dos?
No.
I was taking no-dos, bro.
I didn't do any of that.
Yeah. I was taking no-dos.
Coffee. I was like really when
we
I
were
first started
passing no-dos around
coffee.
like Tic Tacs in that class, dude. And I was still falling asleep.
But, you know, I literally, like, that weekend, I had never studied like that ever in my life. I mean, high school, I was a B student at best, low B student at best. I was never a studier. I was never like, you know, even like even like the college level courses that I had taken, you know, the fire science stuff and tools and equipment and stuff like that didn't require studying like that.
Yeah, Fire
you know
Academy,
I mean?
like you had testing all the time.
So
you studied, but
it literally was a shock to me to have to study that much, dude. And so went home that weekend, literally studied like, I don't know, 20 hours for those two days. And then came in on Monday, had our second quiz, and I passed the second quiz. And I was like, okay, I got to study that much. That's what my fucking study schedule has to be like. And I don't think that's changed since I was in school, because I would literally come home, you'd have class all day, from 8 a.m. to whatever it was, 1:30 or 2 o'clock, whatever time we got out. And then come home, I'd try, do a little exercise, jog around the neighborhood or whatever, and do some push-ups and stuff. Take like an hour to myself to do that. And then I was from 4 o'clock to 1 in the morning in the fucking books in the room studying. Okay. No breaks, like snacks and dinner brought to me. It was just nonstop studying. And that's how it was the whole time that I was in paramedic school. Yeah. And by the time it was all said and done, I wound up being the only guy in my class that it was my first time going through the program. Yeah. Everybody else had failed out once before and come
everybody else. And that's what I'm saying. That's common for that school. So let's backtrack a little bit on how this goes, because just the idea of paramedic school is kind of insane. Like when you think about it, dude, because you do stuff where there's multiple things that only a paramedic and a doctor does. Yeah. And things that only a paramedic and an RN or like a MSN or something can do. There
are things even that like an RN can do that they don't do. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So to be a doctor or a specialist, it's 10 to 12 years of school. To be a MSN, RN, it could be like 4 years, 6 years. You do all this stuff and learn it in 3 months, dude.
3 months.
3 months. You get 3 months in class, 1 month in an ER, and 2 months on an ambulance with a paramedic like Danny. And that's it. And you're supposed to know all this shit. So they ask you to be an EMT for 6 months before that. The jump in knowledge from EMT to paramedic is insane. Well, there's a lot that you should know if you are going to be a good EMT.
I disagree. Yeah, exactly.
In practice of what you do as an EMT compared to what you're going to have to know and do all the time as a paramedic.
So ultimately, I'm glad you said that, man, because ultimately what it boiled down to in being prepared for paramedic school, what I did in those 2 days and what I should have been doing prior to that was legitimately learning all of the shit that I should have learned out of my EMT book. Because EMT school, we should have started with EMT school. EMT school, you go through EMT school and you learn all this stuff and you pass the tests and stuff like that, but you're never going to really use 95% of the stuff that's in the
workforce isn't like set up that way.
That's in the EMT book. You might use it like in Idaho, Nebraska, Wisconsin, somewhere where you're transporting for a couple of hours, right? But in LA County, you're 15 minutes, from a hospital, no matter where the hell you are. So you never use the stuff that's in your EMT book.
Yeah. And there's such an EMS system that you're not trusted to do any of that shit anyway.
If you are planning on going to paramedic school and you want to go to paramedic school, pull out, dust off your EMT book and study that thing from cover to cover. Know everything in that book, because all of like the systems, body systems, all that information is in there. And that's all the base stuff that you need to know for paramedic school.
When I was an intern, the parts that I got dinged on were BLS skills.
Yeah.
I nailed all the assessment stuff and I was like killing it with that. Yeah. But like I had a bandage fall off somebody's head once when I was rapping, just stuff like that, dude. Like where you learned it when you first got the job, when you first got a license, and you never fucking did it.
I'd even go as far to say that the difference between what you should know as an EMT and what you should know as a paramedic isn't that vast. I just think nobody gives the EMT portion the respect that it should have as far as like getting their knowledge up to what you should know as an EMT. Because I think the difference between being a really good EMT and being up to date on everything that you should know that's in that EMT book compared to being a paramedic is really just cardiology and pharmacology. I mean, it's really the only difference.
Advanced airway.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Even that advanced airway stuff, there's EMTs. You can get in EMT.
That's true. That's true. There's EMTs that CompuTube and all
that's all. That's all skills. That's all skills shit. The pharmacology and the cardiology, you got to know that shit.
Yes.
There's a big difference between a narrow complex QRS and a wide complex QRS and the medications and how you treat all that shit, right?
But that's also why you have to learn so much shit in those 3 months, because everything that's behind that. So that's the thing that's like the insane part is like you're getting like at least a year of medical school, like medical school in 3 months.
Oh yeah.
And it's set up in blocks where like this is the part we're teaching. This is the cardiology block. This is the pharmacology block. This is the airway block. This is the assessment block. And you can fail out of the school on any of those.
Yeah.
So every day you go to school, like I might only have 2 days here, and people drop like flies, especially in that school. Because I think with other schools, I mean, I don't want to say like they're easier, but they found a way to have more success is to give as much help as possible.
And that's where Mount Sac is different
Right.
than all the other schools.
Yes.
All the other schools want you to succeed. They are going to put forth an effort to make you succeed. Whereas Steve Williams, who doesn't work there anymore, so I shouldn't. I think it was more a Steve Williams problem than it was a Mount Sac problem.
Because he ran the school and he had his own idea of how paramedics should be taught.
He felt more like his job was to weed out the people that shouldn't be paramedics. And so it felt a lot more like he was really trying to get you to fail. And if you passed, you deserved it. You know, as opposed to everyone else who was like trying to get you to pass, trying to give you all the help that you could to pass. So I'll give you an example. Steve O. Williams. How you doing, Steve, if you're listening?
We love you, Steve. Thank you for everything.
He gave us, I remember we had a quiz the next day, or a test coming up, and it was a cardiology quiz.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's quiz is on cardiology. Make sure you guys are studied up on it, blah, 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 right? So spent the night fucking studying my ass off on cardiology. Like I said, it is one of the two things that are like you're really learning from scratch, you know? So study it. Get there. The whole test was on like animal bites. Okay, like a random ass thing. And there was like 3 questions on cardiology. And everyone's like, what the? Right? We come back and everyone's just like, and he's like, so I guess you all noticed that test wasn't, on 3 questions on cardiology. Do you think that a patient is going to call you the night before and tell you I'm having a heart attack? No. So we need to be prepared and ready for it. Mm-hmm. And we're all just staring at this guy like, F you, man. Yeah.
He thought he was Mr. Miyagi. Like he was like real sensei, and he took everything so serious. He was so like profound and enunciated everything and gestured. And he was like a serious like college professor at the Mount Sac paramedic school.
Yes. And for a lot of people, that's enough to go, F you, I'm out of here, or screw this guy, I'm going to go to another school. For me, it was like, all right, F you, dude. You're not going to beat me, right? And so it just motivated me to study even harder, to be better prepared. To now I know I can't trust what he's saying about the quizzes. Mm-hmm. So anything we've covered in school, I just need to re-breeze over that and study really hard the new shit that we learned, you know? And it served me well, man. It served me well. I kept passing quizzes, passing tests. And then it, finally got to them. We're in skills now and doing things. And it's like, now this is new stuff. We're like, oh, okay, we're all learning this and skills. I got you on skills. And then, that last test comes up and I'm the last dude that's his first time going through. And we have our very last, final exam go through. And the way he did it was, you take the final exam and then, you turn it in, and then, the next day, everyone, you go through class, and at the end of class, he would call your name and hand you a paper that had your test score on it, right? Mm-hmm. So all the fail ones,
that's
the ones
how
you could fail
stayed,
and get out of it. So if you didn't get your name called, you were one of the last people in the class, and then he would give you, tell you didn't pass, whatever. It's the end of the road. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget, man. I had a pretty good buddy that sat behind me, all throughout class, and we studied together and stuff like that. And it was his second time going through, and we're all getting our things. And, he calls my name. I'm like, fuck, yes, I passed paramedic school. I'm out there and we're all high-fiving each other and stuff. And then, where is such and such? And then off in the distance, I could see him run into his car, get in, drove off. And I'm just like, son of a bitch, man.
Yeah. And
bitch.
Those moments would happen like at least 6 times during the course. Because every final that would happen, dude.
And that's why I'm pretty sure it was 50, man, because it whittled down to like, whatever it was, 20, whatever we wound up graduating.
It starts with
22.
The classroom wasn't even that big. It starts with like 35, maybe.
All right.
But your class was mostly, or my class was mostly guys that failed out of your class.
Oh, probably. Yeah. Because Ben went the class right after me.
Yeah.
Would you say your experience was similar? as far as like the prep and getting in and all that stuff.
Yeah, and that was the whole thing, was like you never studied like that in your life, and you were still looking at 55s on your quizzes. Like, how the fuck? Like, what am I gonna do? Like, it was insane. But then, like, you go through it, you have to put up with all of his dramatics. All the other instructors are really cool, but I was gonna do this. I had to go twice. When I had the pharmacology block, he handed me my thing. He's like, "You got a 79." And like, you think like, this is 1 percentage point, dog. Like, I can't do anything. Like, I passed everything else, dude. And he's like, psh, better luck next time. Like, he doesn't give a fuck.
Heartless.
Yeah. So I went right back the next time, and then I killed it. I think I was like 3rd in the class or something after that, you know? And
so you get through the classroom portion, right? You get through all the stress and everything that accompanies that. And you pass, and it feels really good, but you're not done yet. You know, 3 months is didactic, classroom portion. Now you got to go out in the field, and you got to really apply all the shit that you learned in the classroom. It might be different now, but when we went through, it was 1 month at a clinical setting, so at an ER.
Yeah, in an ER.
And typically they try to put you in like a trauma center or some place that's like a busy ER where you could actually see some things and get some things.
Where'd you go? Do you remember?
What's that?
Do you remember where you went?
Yeah, I went to Northridge Roscoe.
Oh, okay.
And Holy Cross.
Ah, okay. Holy Cross gets some shit.
Solid,
both
dude.
of them do, actually. Yeah.
So I've got one story. How are we with time?
Yeah, I think we're 10 minutes.
Okay. I got a real quick Northridge Roscoe story to tell. So when you're in this clinical setting, right? You're like a EMT in the ER. You're like a go-to, like an ER tech almost.
But it's sort of like an extra nurse, because like the nurse is the ones that are giving you all their jobs to do, basically. Start lines, check
the
this,
stuff that falls in your scope of practice.
Exactly.
They let you do. You can start IVs, but really it's an opportunity for you to go in, start a bunch of IVs, go in and like talk to patients and practice. I always tell my interns, like or guys that I know that are going through paramedic school, use your clinic time to talk to patients and do assessments. Walk in there and say, hey, I'm a paramedic student. Would you mind if I just pretended like I walked into your house and to do an assessment on you? And
Take that advice.
People are sitting there for hours waiting for a doctor or test results, whatever.
They're just happy to talk to somebody.
Play this little game with you, right? Or they tell you to go screw yourself and you go to the next room. It's no big deal. But that is a good use of your time when you're in clinic, is to go through and practice your assessments, because that's what most kids have trouble with.
Them telling you to go away is good practice for you too.
But you get what you can in these places. So like at a trauma center, right? Like Northridge Roscoe was a trauma center. You could get an intubation there. They could bring somebody up who's deteriorating and they're going to intubate. You could tell the doc, hey doc, I'm a paramedic student. Can I get an intubation? You could get an emergency childbirth in the ER. You could get, someone who got their freaking arm chopped off and the doctor's like, hey, change out that tourniquet, right? Or whatever the hell. There's a whole cornucopia of things that you could get in a busy trauma ER. So I'm there. I'd been there for a while, and I'd started 1,000 IVs already, and I had talked to 1,000 patients. I had already gotten an intubation. They had called from an upper floor for the doctor to go up, and I said, hey, can I? And so she let me go up and do the intubation. And so I was already like on my tail end of like being there, right? And this rescue calls in, and that's another thing. Rescues call in to make base contact with the base station hospital. You go and you listen to the base report. You listen to how they give their base report and stuff like that. So you get a feel for what that's like, what the MICN is looking at on her form and how she fills out, so you can structure your reports to kind of flow with her paper and all that stuff, right? Like, this is all stuff I'm doing while I'm there. So I go to listen to this report, and this rescue calls in, hey, we've got a 80-something-year-old male. He was in his backyard. He tripped and fell in his backyard and bonked his head on a concrete planter. He was answering some questions, but he seems really lethargic. He's not answering everything. He's altered. We got him in full spinal mobilization. We're monitoring him. These are his vital signs, historyologies, meds. We're coming to you with a 12-minute ETA. Roger that. Blah, 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 blah. Cool. Okay, cool. We got a trauma coming in. So we go over with the trauma team, start getting everything ready, right? A few minutes later, they call back. Hey, just FYI, this guy's respirations are taking a dump. We're assisting with a BVM right now. You guys are probably going to have to intubate him when we get there, but we're a couple minutes out. Sweet. So I turn to the doctor. I go, hey, doc. Oh, shit, sorry. I go, hey, doc, paramedic student, is it cool if I intubate when he gets here? He goes, yeah, sure, no problem. So I get everything set up at the head, and they come wheeling him in. It was Chick Hearn.
Oh,
Chick Hearn, the voice of the Lakers for many years, legendary announcer for the Lakers, Chick Hearn, right?
Doctor says, "Get the fuck out of here."
Yeah, it's essentially what happened. I'm standing there with the laryngoscope and everything, and the dog's like, "Nope." He goes, "Nope, kid, it's not going to happen." He
Literally the golden throat.
So he comes in, they intubate him and everything. It was the time when he actually was in the hospital and actually passed away. But yeah, man, it was just, you're so excited. And I was so like pumped up and like, okay, I've already done this. I know what to look for. I know how to visualize the chords, ask for correct pressure. I'm going through all this stuff in my head.
This was your first one, right?
This is my second one. I already have one already.
Okay,
But yeah, just like you said, the like most golden vocal cords you could in like the history of Los Angeles comes in, and the doctor just looked at me and I looked at him like I'm good to go, man. I got this. And he's like, "Nope, ain't happening, kid." And he snatches it off because it wound up being, on the news and
the
news
you kidding?
It was out there for a week and stuff like that.
They
and
show a file photo of you when you worked at Bally's.
But yeah, man, but that's paramedic school, and it's the same thing in the field. Like when you come out in the field, you never know who the hell you're going to run into.
Nope.
Who you walk through the front door of a place and, oh shit. So you do that in clinic, you get all your clinic time off, and then you go into the field. Okay. And you're a paramedic intern in the field for 20 shifts, possibly 30 shifts.
Now, did you notice the difference from being in the clinic and how you're taught in the clinic to like how you're taught in the field? Right
of course.
Yeah. Because when you're in the clinic, you're learning things the way nurses do it. And nurses, the way they do things in ER is like completely different than how you do it in an ambulance.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I remember the nurse training me, whenever they can give IM injections, they would do it. Even if they had a line or something, usually something in the hospital, there's already something running in the line. So they don't always give all the medications through it, right? So IM is intramuscular. You just pop it in their shoulder. And you're in the field, if you ever give intramuscular, you just do it in the shoulder or something, maybe the thigh. If that. Nurses put it in people's butts, all the time. And they're like telling you to do it. I'm like, I don't know. And I remember it was like a woman, and it was a female nurse, and she's like, "No, just pull down her underwear, just pop it in there like that." I'm like, I'm not doing that, man. Like, what do you?
They're different worlds, man. They're definitely different worlds.
It's a trip, man. But
and then you
learn
get out
there for a month, and then you go to the field.
Yeah, you get out in the field, man, and you're just kind of thrown to the wolves there, and I'll just tell you real quick, and it's real easy. Like you go through all that training, all that stuff we just talked about, all the stress in paramedic school, all the studying and hours every night of studying, and you're in the clinic and you've started all these IVs and you've done it, right? And you've done it. But in all those things, you had a doctor right there, you had a nurse right there, you had the instructor right there. Now it's, even though you have a paramedic preceptor with you, you got it, kid, right? I just had a brand new intern start with me 2 days ago, my last shift. Okay, Mike Hernandez. What's up, dude?
Good luck.
He had a 0 shift. You have 0 shift where you come and you just ride along for 8 hours. And I always tell my interns, just watch. You don't do anything, dude. Just watch what we're doing. Get a feel for how we operate. Get a feel for how we talk to patients. Get a feel for the flow. And Mike, our new intern, was actually an Explorer Scout with the fire department, cadet with the fire department, which is a great program we'll talk about on another episode. Mm-hmm. But he's already been riding along, and he's kind of ingrained and knows what the fire station is all about, and has been on emergency 911 calls and stuff like that. But that pressure of being the man, you got it, kid. Everything that you've learned before that, all the hours of studying, all the hours in the clinic, the first moment that you are the man and you're in front of it feels like all that shit just flies right the fuck out of your head. Mm-hmm. And you're standing there like, my first call, I'll never forget, man. I did my internship at Fire Station 29, which is actually not too far from here. And we get this call, and it was an unconscious guy in the hallway of his apartment building, right? And we walk up, and this guy's just laid out in the hallway, corked. He's pretty sweaty and stuff, and there's a little bit of blood on the wall. He's got a little cut on his head. And we get down, and everyone's quiet. I just remember it being silent. And I'm looking at this guy, and it's like, okay, I had all these questions I was going to ask. on the way there, that I'm running down my head, like all these questions to get his history and all this shit, right?
Right.
And then I'm staring at this guy who's unconscious. He can't answer any of these fucking questions that I've been trained to ask. And so I froze, dude. I literally froze. Mm-hmm. And then my preceptor went, "All right, what are we doing?" And I went, well, let's just get him up and get him going, right? I hadn't checked vital signs. I hadn't done shit. I literally didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Froze and he went, well, let's get some vital signs real quick, see what we're dealing with. And then it was like, oh, okay, yeah, you're right, man.
Yeah,
you're right.
snaps you out of it.
Okay, let's get some vital signs, and you start kind of flowing into it, right?
Let's pause and explain what's going through your head there, though, because at this point you've done 1,000 assessments, like practice assessments, sitting with your friends. Oh, hey, how are you feeling? How is this? How is this? Well, this is what I'll do. I'm going to start on oxygen. I'm going to get there. I'm going to get a
mega
pulse ox.
codes running through
you've
holds.
done so many of them. You've done them in the
What
ER.
medications, all that shit.
But now this is a real call. You're going to do it with a real fucking stranger who called 911.
With real consequences if you screw up, too.
Yes,
you know?
exactly. And you don't know what it is yet. So all that kind of just hits you at once. And like he said, you're just kind of like, something's got to like kind of like snap you into motion.
So I never forget that feeling and that moment on that first call and freezing like that. And mind you, my internship went great after that. I mean, every incident, I had some significant incidents. I had an intubation. I had, all these cool calls on my internship. But that first moment of freezing and literally just being like, oh shit, I don't know what to do, and feeling all that pressure, I'm even talking about it now, I can feel it in my soul,
Mm-hmm.
So when I get a new intern, like I got, Mike the other day, I always break that shit down for him. Hey man, understand that everybody with a paramedic license that's here has been right where you are. Everybody has felt as nervous as you feel right now. Everybody has looked around and seen, the unknown and been scared like you are right now. Okay. I promise you that. Okay. So if you feel that feeling, just let me know, hey, I'm kind of stuck, and I will give you a little nudge in the right direction. Okay. And it'll all come back to you. But don't be afraid of, number one, telling me when you don't know something. Okay. If I ask you to do something or ask if you know something, don't ever lie. Don't ever say you know something when you don't. Just fucking tell me. That's why I'm here. I'm here to teach you the shit you don't know, right? So tell me.
Right.
And if you get stuck, if you feel like you're in a jam, or if you just feel your nerves get to a point where you aren't functioning properly, just tell me.
Yeah.
Communicate with me, and I will help you. I feel like that is my job as a preceptor.
It's a balance that you have to walk, though, because it's still your patient too.
It is.
So you got to like know exactly how much rope to give this dude.
It is. And that comes, I guess it comes with time too. I mean, I've had a ton of interns over the years, and I've been blessed that I've had guys that have been solid.
Yeah.
Because you can get paramedic interns that come through that are lazy, that don't know the shit, and for some reason they squeak through, fell through the cracks on these things.
Or they just freak out.
Or
they just can't handle it, dude.
Can't handle. I mean, I've heard of interns, because you got to give drills and everything to the fire station, just like a rookie would.
It's intimidating.
That, get up there and a couple guys start asking questions and have full-blown panic attacks, have syncable episodes.
There's guys they ask to get switched to other stations.
Yeah.
Because they just can't handle their preceptor. If you do your first run and you don't get that freeze or those jitters or whatever, don't get big balls, because it's coming. Believe me, my
Eventually,
first couple runs, I had kind of chill runs.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have that. I did doing everything fine. I got through my first whole day like that. I remember I was like, damn, I'm from paramedic. All right, cool. Man. And then I think the next night I got a shooting, and it's this dude, he had like 2 big holes in his chest. Like he's, pretty fucked. And there was like a crowd of people out there already in the street. And I don't know. I thought it was just a couple seconds, but yeah, my preceptor had to jump in first and start doing shit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
And he
yeah,
was
man.
like, nah, you froze up, dude.
I mean, it's one of the main things that interns do, man, is just freeze. Or they'll stand there with the box and the monitor in their hands and start talking. Well, what's going on? Well, what? And it's like, dude, you need to walk and chew gum at the same time. You can put this shit down, put this box down, get the BP cuff. Hey, I'm Mike. I'm in, and I'm just using Mike as an example.
Yeah.
Mike's doing great, man.
Don't
Don't get twisted.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Mike. I'm a paramedic. What's going on? As you're putting, hey, buddy, hey, can you set me up an IV? Right? It's being a paramedic is all about multitasking, delegating things that you can't get to right now because you got to do this. That's where I am there to help you figure out this little dance that you do as a paramedic on scene in the midst of whatever chaos is happening with the call itself and what you have to do for this patient.
Yeah.
That's it, man. That's my if I have to teach you shit about being a paramedic, like the book shit, we're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
that's where you're going to get extended
Mm-hmm.
to a 30 shift. And if you don't make it after 30 shifts, you're out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I feel like that's my position. My position is just to kind of be the bumpers, the bumpers at the
Mm-hmm.
bowling alley, to just bump you back in the right direction and give you little tidbits of information, like my buddy Dex gave me when I was a young firefighter.
Mm-hmm.
I always, just another thing, you know, Dexter was a paramedic also, and just the things that he taught me that I talked about at the beginning of the show. Those are things, like I said, I lock into my soul as an older fireman now, and as a preceptor now to younger kids, or all these new rookies that are coming through. You know, we're all kind of their preceptors there and teaching them like what's the best way to do things and stuff like that.
Yep.
And that's what I feel like. I feel like that's what my position as a firefighter these days, or my position on the fire department is really just to be a guy that does his job well, treats people with kindness and respect, and is respectful to the public, but also transfer the knowledge that I've gotten over the years to these younger kids that are coming on, so that they can learn the right way, and have long and fruitful careers.
Yeah. You do it with that same positive energy that Dexter brought, and that he probably showed by example to, you know, so many other guys that are doing it now for so many other guys. And then the result is it's kind of like a whole different culture within the department.
Exactly.
That's how it works.
It's a slow thing that happens, and I feel like I'm contributing to that even just a little bit. And Dexter was one of the beginnings of that for me. So
exactly.
We'll finish like we started, man. Big ups to my boy Dexter. Much love to you. Strength to your family, man. Thank you for everything that you taught me on this job. And good luck wherever you're headed, man.
Right on. Rest easy, dude. Thank you guys for listening. This is another great episode of PRC. Danny, where can they find you?
You can follow me at Danny Gonzo34 on Instagram and Twitter.
You can follow me at Ben9Humor, Ben number 9 Humor, like my 9 Humor, on Instagram and Twitter. You can follow our show at PRC Pod on Instagram and Twitter, or at PRC Podcast on TikTok. You can also email us, contactprcpod@gmail.com, if you want some merch, if you want to tell us we're cool, or if you have any ideas for a show or a guest. That's it. Thank you.
That's it. See you.